properly, right?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, we can hear.
Okay. So for today's session, we are going to talk about Azure DevOps, and we'll cover the CI/CD pipelines and other services Azure DevOps contains. Um, as the agenda, first we'll look on what is Azure DevOps, and then after we'll understand the Azure DevOps services, and I'll show you the workflow of the app service deployment that we'll be doing some deployments to the Azure portal from Azure DevOps. It's going to be an app service that we're going to deploy our .NET application to there. And apart from that, we'll explore other features Azure DevOps provides, and it's just going to be a web app that we'll be finally deploying. And first, if you look on what Azure DevOps, I think you guys, some of you would have already worked on it, or I don't know what kind of knowledge you have. So I will just continue on everything of talking about all the features I could. So if it is not known before, then I'll give an introduction for those who are not known about this. It's just a software as a service that it's given by Azure itself from the Microsoft, that we can have all our DevOps related activities done within this software. So it's a SaaS app, and here I have just categorized the services it has. You know, when you work in a project, you will be doing some agile related work, the project management related work. You may need the task board. All these things can be done by the DevOps. Apart from that, you have the building, deployment, and the CI/CD work that also can be done. And your project, the code base can be done using the version controlling, can be done using the same. And apart from that, we have service integration of other extensions. So these are the mainly used services. Apart from this, we can do so many things. I'll try to cover most of them within the time we have. First, I'll quickly show you the DevOps life cycle. Hope you have an understanding about this cycle. You would have seen this picture so many other places. But here the important is, when we are looking on Azure DevOps, we should know what are the services that we can use for each of these stages. So for code, we use Azure repos. For build, Azure pipelines. Likewise, we have so many services which helps us to do the entire work of development and operations within the DevOps, Azure DevOps itself. So this is the workflow that a common workflow, and this is what I'm going to show you today. So let's say you have the user using Azure DevOps here. He has the board, he has all his tasks, and every item is managed here, and his test plans also connected to it. Mostly the task connected to the tests are connected to the task you have, and then you have the repo, and you have the code base. You do branching and you push the code to the repo, and then inside the pipeline, the changes will get triggered by the CI pipeline at the beginning. So the CI pipeline will do the continuous integration. Once it is triggered, it will build it, and the build is passed to the CD pipeline for doing the deployment, the continuous deployment. So then we have the we can get the build in the artifact also, and the CD pipeline will return the deployed service. So you can deploy it to the Azure portal. So this is where we connect directly to the Azure portal to do the deployment. And for that, we need the app service, and it is registered under app registration. It has the Active Directory and the under the subscription. And you can see that in order to connect to Azure portal and Azure DevOps, we need service connections. I'll show all these things so we will get an understanding, but let's see the big picture here first. So the app registration is what is needed in the beginning, and then after through the service connection, we can connect to whatever the services we have from Azure portal. So this is simply what's happening, and I'll take you on a tour. There, I'll first show you the app we have. So this is the Azure DevOps page, how it is look like. And here we can have multiple organizations, and under one organization we can have multiple projects. I'll go to this project. This is the one I have prepared. So as I said before, we have all these features here. So we can see the summary, we can prepare a dashboard for the different features, to see the widgets on the status of whatever the things that we need. It's coming based on the queries we generate. And we can have the wiki page. It's like the Confluence page. If you have worked in that before, that we will store all our documents and information. And under the boards, we have the work items. So the tasks what you have to work on, the status of them, all these items can be found here. It's like Jira. You work in Jira or Bugzilla or other tools. So all these tools are combined in Azure DevOps. That's the specialty it has. So under the board, you can maintain all of your work and look on the to-do items, what is in currently in progress and all. And you can see the backlog items over here, and you can see the sprints. Mostly in DevOps, as a DevOps, we use the term stations. Station is similar to sprint. So under this sprint, the status is this sprint is done. So likewise, you can see on the task board and all over there. And this is queries. This is what mostly used. For example, I have one query for filtering out all the open bugs. So if you go inside, you can filter it by writing your own criteria, like work item type is issue, and you have to filter all the issues which are on to do state. So then when you run this will give you the list of items which are on open bugs. And apart from that, we have the delivery plans, and we have the analytics views also. So these are kind of project management related work. Those things also can be done here. And then under the repos, we have the files. So this is where the code base is stored. So you can connect it through Git or any other source methods. So here we have .NET Core Web App. So this is where you filter out what repository you're going to work on. This is the one I'll show you today to do the deployment, and I'll just go through the other one a little to understand about the libraries. And then here you can pick the branch, on which branch you want to see the code base. Like if you go inside, you can see the code, and you can see the commits over here. And apart from that, we have other features also. So I thought, guys, it will take more time for us to go through each and every. So I will play a recording. I just prepared with the recording, because here we have to do the commit, we have to push, we have to create a branch and then make a pull request and run the pipeline. So when we do the build and then when we deploy it, it's going to take some time. Therefore, I already prepared a recording with the limited time. So I'll just play it now. And if you have any questions, you can ask at the end of it. Hope it's okay. And tell me, guys, if you can't hear anything or see the screen.
Okay, now let's look on to the pusher.
Guys, could you hear this one? Can you listen it when I play?
Yeah.
Okay.
Section. Here we have some set of pushes that we made to the master branch, and we can see the status, whether it is succeeded and who made that, and some information about all those pushes. And inside the branches section, we can see we have different branches called demo, master, and the commit, the last commit, the author of the branch, and the status of it, and many other information. And in the text section, we have tags for the release. So when we are going to make a release, we can just tag it to make sure that we are maintaining the versions as it is, and we can control the versions for commits or releases. From here, we can add a new tag. And then in the pull request section, we can see the active pull request and what are the completed pull request and the status of that, and when it completed and where it got merged and so other information. Okay, now let's see under the branches sections, a common feature that we need. in industrial scenarios, when we are going to make some changes into our main branch, let's say some developers are working on some feature implementation, when they want to merge the changes to the main branch, which is, let's say, master, then before we merge the changes, we need to make sure that that change is completely merge, not going to make any issues to the master branch. That is, it is good to be merged by checking it on different conditions. It must have some reviewers there to review it, and it should not have any comments to fix. So likewise, we need to have some policies to set to the master branch or the development branch, which we set as the main branch. So in order to do that, we can go here and click on the branch policies. Once we click on this, we can set the branch policies for that branch. For example, I have some branch policies set for the reviewer. So in this case, it says that there must be only one reviewer to review this. If not, we are not going to merge it. And we can say that this must have all the comments resolved before we merge. So it's a required condition. And we can even check for the linked work items. So if there's any work items here that we have that is they are to be linked, it can be mandatory as linked to be there. And then inside the limit merge types, there we can say, okay, should not have any no fast forward. And inside the build validation section, we can say, okay, we have a build validation to do before we merge the PR. So this is a quality gate, that this is a build that I have added. You can see inside this I have some set of pipelines. So these are the build pipelines. I'll show you under the pipeline sections what we have in there. So we can set a pipeline to run before we merge the code for the changes that we have in that PR. So this is going to trigger automatically right after we make a PR, and this is a required policy to it has to check for the changes and it has to run and succeed. So likewise, we can set some build validations, and then we can add some reviewers, required reviewers, like for example, let's say I have a folder called pages. So whoever going to work in that area is that particular feature person's going to work in that area will have to have their codes be merged with the approval of this particular reviewer who is specialized in that particular feature. So in that case, you can set your tech lead or someone as your reviewers. So likewise, this is going to automatically include this review when you make a PR. So you can have all these branch policies once you have created your PR. So this is just one example that it comes under the settings. So that is coming under the branches. Okay, now let's create a pull request with some changes and start to build that change and see what happens. For that, I'll go to the files. I'm not going to use my local Visual Studio or any IDE, but I'm just going to make changes here itself. Let's go to this page. Under the pages folder, we have the index, the very first view that we'll be seeing. Here we cannot change anything inside the master branch. You saw that it has so many policies, so that instead of working on that, I'll create new branch. Let's say it's demo 1, and when we are creating a branch, we have to give the work item. It is not mandatory. We can link the work item from this board that we have. Let's say I'm working on this task, so this is linked to this particular item. So that is the change that I'm going to make. And then once we click on the edit section, we can do the changes here. You'll be doing this in your local machine. I'll just do it here. So here we have something like hi all. I'll change this as welcome all, and let's commit this change. So this is going to commit the change into the demo branch. I can give some commit messages here, and here we can choose the task if we want to attach the task to that commit, and then it will get pushed. So now we have to create a pull request. So by default, it will give us a suggestion to create a pull request for the change that we made. That will come even when you push your code from your local IDE. So here you can add the title and you can give a description. When you are giving a description, you can simply type hash, then it will give you all the suggestions. Like when you want to tag to whatever the task that you work, you can click on that. So it will be linked to that task and then you can create it. So once you create a pull request, this is going to add the policies. Now you have set that it must have the record review with this person when we are making changes inside this pages folder. And you can see the commits on what are the changes that is there inside this uh, folder and in this PR. Also, you could see that it started to run this quality gate pipeline that I showed you. So this is a build pipeline that is running to check whether there are any issues or anything that we have to fix before we merge this code to the branch. So after we run this build only, we'll be able to merge. So while this is running, let's go to the pipeline section and see the pipeline informations. Okay, I'll move to the pipeline section. So here you can see this pipeline has started running and it is running now. And this is the quality gate. Other than that, we have some other pipelines as well. Before we go into each of them, let's just create a new pipeline from here. We can create a new pipeline. I'll show you how we can create. There are two ways to create. This is the first way. Here we can just choose first, we can choose the code from where we are going to get it, whether it is a Git code or subversion or anything. Let's say it's something from the Azure repo Git itself. So it asks me to choose my repository. I have this one. And then I have to choose the technology. Let's say it's a .NET application. Finally, it will take the YAML file. This YAML file is added inside my repository. I have added all the configurations in there. So this is a code that we write inside the repository. You can have Terraform, or maybe you can use bicep, or you can use just YAML file, and you can pass your configurations. For example, you say, okay, you have to trigger the master, when the master branch is merged, then you have to trigger this pipeline. And you can say some steps like this to have this task after this. You have to build and test and do all these commands one by one. So you can set all these tasks inside the YAML file. This is one way to create, or else when you are going to create a new pipeline, you will get another option underneath to use the classic editor. So this is a very common way that we use to create a pipeline. This is just a simple editor. You can choose the source first from where it is going to come, the repository name and the branch of it. And then here also you can say whether it's a YAML file you are again going to use, or you can choose a template from here. If that is an Azure function, you can apply this one. If that is a Gradle, then you can do that. So you can choose any task from here, or else you can just go with the empty job. I'll just go with the empty job. So you will get this screen with the available ways to add your task. So you have one job, that is the agent and the pipeline, and it shows the resource that you first selected. So inside the pipeline, you have the agent pool. This is where you are going to set your infrastructure. Now, when you want to build your code, you need to have a host. There must be a server running behind, which has all the SDKs and all the tools installed in it and running. Then only you will be able to do all your tasks like build, test, run, and all those commands can be run afterwards on that particular agent. So we have set of agents and connected to an agent pool. We can go to this manage section. Here we can see the agents that we have. We have some set of agent pools. by default, we will see this Azure pipeline and the default, which comes within Azure DevOps. So you don't have to worry about configuring anything, the infrastructure, adding a SDK or any installations. It will have all the main infrastructure that is commonly needed. Or else you can create your own agent. This is another example of what I have created by having a virtual machine scale set. So you can install the necessary SDKs if you have some specific versions to be installed, a previous very old version. So you can just install by going into that server and connect to that server as an agent here. So once you add an agent, that will come here as an option to choose under the agent pool. But you can directly go with the Azure pipeline, or you can select the VMSS one or any other stuff. So this is self-hosted one. I'll just go with the Azure pipeline hosted. Then after, you have to choose the server. So in this pipeline agent, we have some set of servers. If that is a .NET application, you can probably be going for the Windows server, or else you can go to with any other server as well. Likewise, you can specify your pipeline configurations at first by specifying the agent and other information. And then here you can get your resource from here, that the Azure repo, Git, or whatever the repository that you mentioned before will be available here. And underneath, this is the place where you're going to add your task in. So this is the job that you have. This is inheriting the pool, the agent that you set before. And you can add tasks inside this. So this is a web application, a .NET Core web application. So you will need to have the task to build a .NET Core. So you can simply select the task from here and click on add. And at first you will have to choose what are the commands that you have to run. So at first you will have to restore the .NET, and then you can add multiple tasks from here. And if you want to build, then you can go to this and select the command build. Likewise, you can add multiple tasks here and configure all the configurations. So here you can see this has several places to fill. You can add your path on where you are going to take the code from your SLN solution path, and the packages and all other information should come in here. So you can have a job with multiple tasks. So a job means a collection of tasks, and you can have multiple jobs in one pipeline. I'll go to an example for that. Here, this is a single agent one. Single agent in the sense one job with multiple tasks. And then you can go to this one. This has multiple agents, that is multiple jobs are here, containing multiple tasks. So you can set whether you want to run these agents parallelly or sequentially, and you can set. But remember that these tasks will run sequentially. You have to set the order. You can drag and drop it to other places. Let's say you want to build it before restoring. So this is not going to work anyway, but you can just reorder this in the way. So this task will be running sequentially, but you can set these agents to run in the way you want. And this is handy when you come to when you have some projects like a front end application, back end application. You want to run some specific builds for front end. It is an Angular application, so you're not going to run any .NET related task inside the front end. But in the back end, you will have all those codes because it is a .NET framework. Likewise, when you have different set of tasks needed to run in different agents or jobs, so you will come to this multi-agent. So in this case, I have one build for building the web app and another one to build the database app, that is to changes for the schema is going to be built from this place. And I have some UI test as well, so this is going to do that build, and so on. So likewise, we can have multiple agents also. And there's another example I would like to show you, that is inside the pipelines. We have another example of a YAML pipeline. So I said we can create a pipeline just by selecting the YAML. So when you are going to create a pipeline with the YAML file, you won't see that structure that I showed you previously. When you come to edit it, you will just see the YAML file here. So this has all the information. You see, okay, it should trigger once the master branch is merged and so on. So, and here you can see some specific changes, like you can create some stages inside the CI pipeline as well. So a collection of task is going to be a job, and a collection of job is going to be a stage. So you can have multiple stages inside one pipeline. So this is one example here. I have one stage and another stage here. One is for build, one is for test. Likewise, you can have multiple stages as well. So when you run that build, when you run that pipeline inside each build, so these are the builds that has come under that pipeline. You can see those stages. This has 3 stages. If you go inside the build, you can see here you have 3 stages and some jobs likewise. So this can be achieved only by using a YAML file. But if you are going to have in the traditional way, like this, so as this has a single agent, this is not having any multi stages, so it will just have only one stage. So this is how you will see your pipeline. Okay, so those are the main informations for the pipeline creation. Now let's see what has happened our PR. We have made the pull request. So this is here. Okay, now that quality gate check is succeeded, it is completed. If we go inside, we can see, okay, all 3 checks are succeeded. There's no any comments to resolve. The quality gate is passed. But we have one approver to approve. So it's waiting for the approver to approve before merging. Also, when that approver is reviewing, if they find any changes in the code, let's say they find a mistake here, so they can just add a comment and click on comment. So it's going to be added. And you are going to see there is one comment. So this cannot be merged because comments must be resolved beforehand. So simply you can change the code, push the code again, and in the same PR, you can just resolve it. Once it is resolved, now all the comments are resolved. Now you can go ahead with that. So now you just need that particular approver to approve. Also, you can set your PR to auto complete from here. When you are setting it, this is going to check all the conditions and it will automatically complete the PR once all the commits, all the changes are done. So in that case, if you tick on this, it will delete the branch, that branch that you created now. Or you can just close the task that is related to this by here, or you can do anything you want. I just delete this and set it to autocomplete. So once this reviewer approves this from here, so it's myself, so I'll just approve, then it will automatically complete and this change is now merged and the branch is now deleted. So now our code is merged to the master branch. Now it's time for me to start the build. For that, let's go to the pipeline section and see what happens. Now you see we have 2 pipelines running. Of course, both the pipelines have my master branch as the trigger. So whenever I make any change to the master branch, these pipelines are going to start the pipeline run. Okay, if you see inside this, we can see this single agent pipeline. This is the pipeline that I showed you previously. So this has started running, and if we go inside, this is the .NET Core build. So it first restores the .NET Core and it takes the path, the repository solution path, and it builds the project. So the command is build. And I have passed some variables here, build configuration argument. Now, if you see where I get the value for this variable, you can see the variable section here. It comes from here. Here we can set the variables that we want to have inside the task. For example, that build configuration is inside the variable group. Here we have a variable group. Now, if you want to have any variables with some different values, you can add it from here. Or if you have any set of variable groups, let's say you pass this particular build configuration with the value of release in many pipelines, in many projects, this is the same variable you are going to use. So you can simply go to the library and create a variable group and attach it to here. So it will just link the variable group from here. Or else you can specifically mention the variable only for this particular pipeline. So that is the variables, or you can have some predefined variables as well. There are some variables in Azure DevOps that is needed when you are building your task, because those variables are used mainly inside the pipeline, mainly inside the agents. For example, I'll show in this task, we have the build artifact staging directory. So this is another variable, but you didn't see this variable in somewhere here. I have not set the artifact directory or inside the variable group. But this is a predefined variable. This is the path of where that we are going to get the artifacts from. And here we have to get the code, and inside the agent that we created for the pipeline, we have to store the build artifacts. Finally, once the artifacts are stored in that agent, we can refer it in our release pipeline, in our CD pipeline, in order to get the build changes and do the deployment. So this is another example of the predefined variable. So we don't have to set the path of the agent inside the pipeline. It will automatically take the path from there. And here we have another variable, build number. This is also a predefined variable. The number of each build is going to be taken as a variable, and we can set the format of this number. If you go to the options section, you can see we have a format set here, the date, year, month, and then an auto incrementing number. So whatever the build that is going to get in this pipeline will be in this format. And you can set many other facts here. I'm not going to go through everything. And then the triggers. So this pipeline started right after you set your build. So when you click on, see on the trigger section, you have the .NET Core Web App. The continuous integration is going to go for this, and you set the continuous integration enable, and it is set for the master branch. So every time you make a change to the master branch, this is going to start triggering the pipeline running. So this is another handy way for triggering your pipeline. So likewise, this pipeline is just going to restore .NET and then build and test, and finally it's going to publish the build artifact, and the artifact will be the published, copied artifact will be published to the staging directory, and it will be consumed from your release pipeline. Okay, that is what is happening in this pipeline. So now the build is completed. If we go inside, we can see what we have in there. So the first build up here is the build that we ran now. If you look inside, we can see that it has one agent job, and here it has one published and one consumed. So that means that in this build that it consumed the code of my repository, and it built the code and published the artifact into this particular folder. So this s.zip is the folder which I will need in my release pipeline to continue the deployment. Okay, so now let's move to the release section. Or before that, I have to show you some other pipelines. I think I forgot to show something. Okay, before merging that, we went through some quality gate. So this is the quality gate pipeline that we had previously. And inside this quality gate pipeline, if we go inside, so this is the pipeline that we run when we wanted to make the PR. Right after we made the PR, it started to run this pipeline. So what we have inside this is that it restores the code, .NET Core, and then it has a task group for Sonar Cloud, Quality Gate, and then it tests. So in this pipeline, what I am doing is I want to check my code to be verified from Sonar Cloud, whether it has any issues or not, before I merge it to the master branch. So I have created a task group with some Sonar Cloud Quality Gate specific tasks. You can create a task group like this by clicking on the task here and by right click on it and create a task group. So this will be added as a task group here. So why I create a task group is because when we have multiple tasks which should run in several pipelines, we can just set task group like this and refer it in many pipelines. For example, I need to run Sonar Cloud verification in 2 of my projects. So I need to have same set of Sonar Cloud tasks in different projects. So I'm not going to repeat it in every places, but I'm just going to have a task group and refer it in many pipelines. So you can see inside the build pipelines, I have 2 pipelines, which is referring this task group. One is the .NET Core Web that I showed you, and the other one is the NuGet library. That is this one. So here also I have that same task group. So when you are going to have task groups, remember that you are not supposed to have any linked parameters. For example, in this case, I have this one linked to this particular parameter is linked. So it is tightly bound to the agent. But if you are going to refer it from another task group, then in that case, you should have your variables passed by your pipeline. So for example, in this task group, I have the Sonar Cloud integration. I have to give the project key and the project name with the Sonar Cloud connection. So this is my Sonar Cloud account. I have some issues. We can see the number of bugs, number of vulnerabilities, and all those information for this particular project. So in order to connect to that project, I have to give the connection endpoint and the organization and information, and I have to specify the project key of this particular project that I have. I can have many projects in Sonar Cloud. So all those informations should be there. Where was I? This one. Okay. So we have the Sonar project key and Sonar project name. So these variables must be passed by every pipeline. Because of that, you can see that in this task group, this will have a place for adding the variables. If you have any default values, you can set in here. So in that case, if one pipeline does not going to pass this variable, then you can just take it from the default value. So if you go to this pipeline, here I'm using the task group and I have the same variables, Sonar project key and all other information inside this task. So in the variable section, I have all these variables set with that. This is what I'll be using in Sonar Cloud connection. And again, in the other pipeline, here also we have the Sonar project key, Sonar project name, and other information. So here also I am passing the necessary variables for that particular project that I need to connect to Sonar. So this is another handy way of connecting in task groups. So another feature from Azure DevOps. Okay, now let's see our pipeline, and now we finally we saw what has happened to the pipeline, and it ran and it completed with successfully and gave us the output of the s.zip file that we found here as it published and one consumed. So now it's time for us to take this published zip file to our release pipeline and start the deployment. So let's go to the releases. So this is where you're going to add your releases or deployment. So we have some set of CD pipelines. We have different projects or different pipelines are created, and inside here we have the releases. You can see different stages are there. You can release to any stage you want, and the created date and the branch that it is connected to, and so many other information. First, I'll show you how to create a CD pipeline. So I'll go to the new release pipeline. Here you get the same set that you see in the CI pipeline. Here also first it will ask you to choose a template on the technology that you are using. Let's say you want to deploy it to Azure App Services. So you can just select on this, or you can go for any other options here. I'll just choose the empty job. So this is going to have an empty stage without any task defined in there. I'll rename it. Let's say it's my development stage. And now I have one stage linked to the artifact. So I have to first specify from where I am going to get the build, the artifact that I will be using to do the deployment. So I can get it from the build or from any other repositories. So here we have to first choose, if I say build, then we have to choose the build pipeline. I have many CI pipelines. This is the CI pipeline that I am using for this change, the current change I made. So that s.zip file will be contained inside this pipeline. And I specify, okay, take the latest version from that CI pipeline builds. And I just rename it and then add. So now by default, it is connected to the development stage. So once you build something in this pipeline, the latest version of the build will start the deployment into this development stage. Let's go inside and see what this has. And here also we have the same set of UI. We can have the agent job and we can add the task from here. Here we can choose the template. Let's say now this time we are going to deploy to Azure App Service. So we can just click on this and go inside and set your subscription, on which subscription you are going to connect to Azure. So this is another way of connecting to the Azure services. I'll show you how we get all these options here, how we can connect to our subscriptions. Then you have to choose your subscription, and then you have to choose your app service which is there under that subscription, and you can give the information. So here you can see this is where it's going to take the package of your build. The CI pipeline build will be taken from this path. This is again the same predefined variable, that this variable is there in the Azure DevOps. And if you have another specified path, you can go here and choose from here. So you have the szip and you can say OK. Then that szip is going to be taken as its package to start the deployment. Likewise, you can set all the variables here. Here also you can go and specify if you have any specific variables, and you can set the retention policy on how many days this deployment should retain, or when it should get failed, or it should get expired, not failed. So you can have the retentions, and there are many options, and you can say the history, and a lot of things are there. The other important thing is you can see that we have an icon here. This is the pre-deployment icon. So this has the options for you to choose on what to do before you deploy to this particular stage. Here we have some triggers. Now, when you are going to start a deployment, you can just start it by the build that is success. So after release means this is after the CI build release, this is going to trigger. So you have this connection here. This is what it's going to do. Or else you can set it to manual only. So you do not see that line anymore. That means that you will have to manually set this deployment whenever you need to do the deployment. Anyway, this is going to take the artifact from the path you mentioned here, but this will start only when you manually deploy it. And here we have another option to set the approvers. Let's say you have some specific users who needs to approve before you do a deployment. You can set that approver here. And then you can set the gate. So this is another useful way to do some pre-deployment conditions. Let's say, for example, you have let's say you have an Azure function to be running before you start running your deployment. Before you run your application, you need to run this Azure function. So you can set this as a gate. Or you can say you have some query work items. So this is a handiwork to check on how many bugs you have, or is there any task that you have to complete before you do this deployment. Then you can have a gate here. For example, I have a query for shared queries and open bugs, that which I previously showed you inside the queries section. So this is going to check whether there's any open bugs as per that query. If there's any open bugs, then this won't do the deployment. It will stop from the gates. Likewise, you can set the deployment queue settings on whether it should run parallelly with other stages or not, and many more things. And the next one is the post deployment. Let's say you have some post deployment approvers. Once the deployment is completed, you need another person to review in order to go to the next stage, or maybe to start the release note or any other specification. So you can set the reviewer here like previously, and you can set the gates as well. And we have the auto redeploy trigger. This is for redeploying triggering. Now let's say you have this deployment which is failed. So what you should do at that place, whether you want to keep the failed stage as the final deployment, or whether you want to move to the successful previous deployment. Likewise, you can set this, or this automatically take the successful previous one. So it's up to you to decide on the post deployment conditions. Likewise, you can maintain all the conditions for each stages, and you can have multiple stages. You can see we have a add button. Just go and click on next stage, new stage. Here again, this is going to ask the same set of things, whether you need to have it with a template or just go with empty job. And if we say it's empty job, then I'll just rename it. Let's say this is a QA stage. So when you want to test your deployment, you can go here. And here you see that this is connected with this because my pre-deployment condition says after stage of deployment. So development. After development stage, this should start running. So it is going to continually running. Or else you can set it to manual, so that connection is no more there. Or you can set it to be from after release as well. So right after you trigger your changes in CI pipeline, this is going to start. Likewise, it has the same gates and deployment queue and all other approvers, so and so. So this is how you are going to maintain all your different environments, different stages, and you can deploy to whatever the stage you want based on what you have created here. Okay, now let's go inside our pipeline. I'm not going to save this, and see how this is going to be in our case. So now we have that zip CI build is run, and we have the artifact. And I have created my release pipeline here. This is the project that we have been working on. And if we go inside this release pipeline, you can see I have 3 stages not connected. They are independent. We can deploy it manually. And this one has some pre-deployment conditions. This does not have. This has a post-deployment likewise. And if we go inside the task, we have several tasks for separate stages. I'll go to the development. Here we have the app service deployment task. I have given my subscription for the Azure app service, and the app service name is also chosen. And here you see the s.zip folder is also chosen. So this particular app service is what is going to be used for deploying. I can show you that here. Here we have the DevOps connection app. This is the deployment center. I have done some deployment previously as well. Inside the overview, we can see the link for this particular connection app. Here, this is the URL that I have here. Okay, let's go to that URL. Oops, I think I have to refresh this and see again. Yeah, I'll show this one. I have previously run this. So currently this has like this, but now I can run that, deploy the changes that I made. I just changed the text over the index HTML and I'm going to deploy it. Let's see what happens. So we can just create a release from here, or we can go to the release pipelines. And here we have the create release button. By clicking on this, we can start a release. So when we click that, it will ask us on which stage we are going to do the deployment to. As this is a manual one, I'll have to manually choose. And here we have to choose the build version. So I'm taking from this pipeline. This is the artifact where I'm going to take, and I'll just choose the latest build and I'll create it. So now this release 19 is started. I'll go and click on this. And here it has many stages. I can simply deploy. None of them are deployed. I'll go to the development and deploy it. If you just deploy to this one, you'll be able to see what happens in the previous pre-deployment conditions, and it will take some time. So that I'll just go to the development and deploy it in there. When you are going to release it, you will be able to see the commits on what are the changes that you have and the work items on which task this is linked to, and then create the deployment. So while this is running, I'll show you some other features inside the release pipeline. I have another example here. So this is a typical example. Here we have 3 stages. All 3 stages are deployed. So inside this, I can show some special features that I missed previously. So you can see this is connected. We have the preconditions, and then it is going to continually trigger one stage to the other stage. So we have a development stage for development particular deployment, and a QA environment, and a production stage. So if you go to the task section, I'll first take you to the production stage. Here we have some set of tasks. This is going to deploy the web application, and also I have another SQL schema changes application. So whatever schema changes that I need, I'm going to push through this particular task. So in this case, I want to show you the variables. Here we have the Azure SQL server connected through the service principal subscription. And here we have the authentication type, how we are going to connect to Azure SQL server. So I'm just taking the deckpack file and deploying it. Here we have the SQL authentication type. We can connect through the connection string for that server, or we can just connect to through the authentication. So SQL Server authentication will ask us to give the server name, DB name, username, password, and all the information. So when we are passing this information, we have to make sure that these sensitive informations are not open to anyone. So you can see I have added those values as variables. Or if you go to this variable section, you will be able to see those information, the server name, username, and other information. And here the connection string. So this is the connection string for that DB. I'll go to here. You can see this is the SQL DB that I'm using. So this has the connection string. I just copied this connection string in there. And you can make it a secret that you can just click on this icon, this lock icon that you see here, and then it will not be visible to anyone else. Or else you can go to the variable group, and here I have linked to my variable group of SQL specific variables. So this one comes from the library. If I go inside the library, you will be able to see the variable groups. I have 2 variable groups. One I showed you previously, the development variable group. The other one is the SQL specific variable group. You can just go inside and create some variable groups which are common to many pipelines. maybe to the CI and the CD. And at the same time, when you are going to have some sensitive data to be stored here, for example, the SQL Server password, in that case, you are not going to make it visible anywhere. You are not going to store it anywhere. So you can just make it in as a key vault. For example, in that case, I have a key vault. This one. So this is the key vault that has the secret of SQL Server password. So this password is not visible to anyone. It is just a thumbprint that it shows me. So that same SQL Server password is what I am using from this library. So it is just connected to the Azure key vault, and I have added the variable here. And here, of course, I have to connect to the Azure through the subscription and then give the key vault name. I'll show you all these subscriptions, how we manage all the service connections later. So now we have the password is set from there. And that is another cool way to have a secure way to maintain our data in there. The next thing I want to show you is in the QA stage. Here we have some different set of tasks. One is for I'm just deploying to my web application. I have not considered anything about my database schema changes because in order to test this, I just want to run the application and then I want to make sure that everything works fine. So you can do a load run, you can have your automations, you can run any kind of runs that you have using Selenium or any other testing tools. So I have just used Selenium here. So in that case, it will first install all necessary tools for that, and then it will do the UI test. For that, you can pass your test from the test assemblies or test plan. Now we have test plan I previously showed from here. So you can pass that to here, or you can get the test assemblies from the file of your project itself. And then you just have to pass the other information, and finally the test results will be published, and you can see the test results under the run section. If you go to the runs, you will be able to see all the test runs, including your manual run that you manually run for the task that you select. So these two are manually run from the task, from the work item that you chose, or else you can just see all the tests. So this has all the tests, including the tests that run from the pipeline itself, including the two manual run. Okay, so this is another cool feature from Azure DevOps, that you can continue your testing within your pipeline itself before you do the deployment. So you can have your own QA stage for having some set of task of deploying the application and then doing the testing. Okay, now I think I completed most of the part from the CD pipeline. Let's see what has happened to our release. So we put this release 19. This has successfully deployed. Okay, inside this release, it has just started the job, downloaded the artifact from my CI pipeline, the folder that I mentioned there, and then it deployed to the app service, and then finally finalized the job. So now, if we go to the DevOps connection app, this is my application app service. If we go to the deployment center, we should be able to see the deployments. Okay, here we see all the releases are available, and here is the final release that I made now, and the application is running here. So let's refresh this and see what has happened. Okay, so this is the change that I made in my repository. So that change is now published to my app service. So this is what we can do from Azure DevOps. I think I continued most of the part. And finally, we have this artifacts. So this is another cool feature to contain your artifacts. This is not the same artifact that I mentioned before. This is not the build pipeline artifact. This is an external artifact that you can store your library output, the packages, maybe a NuGet package or an NPM package or Maven package. You can just store it in here inside these artifacts, and you can use it in anywhere you want. For example, I have a pipeline here. This pipeline is for my class library project. So I have to publish my NuGet package from my class library. I just restore the NuGet and verify the Sona Cloud verification from my task group, and then I pack the NuGet, and finally I push this. So when I am pushing this, every time when I build my library, I have to push my build that NuGet package to my targeted feed. So we can choose the feed from here, whatever the feed that we have inside this artifact. So this is the NuGet package artifact is what is referenced here. So inside the artifact section, we have some set of feeds. So inside the NuGet packages feed, you can see whatever the NuGet packages that I publish from there. So if we go inside, you can see the way how you can connect to this feed. You have the command here, and you can see the code changes, the branch and the commit, and number of downloads it has, number of users, from which. So this is the build that it comes from, which build pipeline that it comes, and all the information. Also, you can go to the versions and see the previous versions, and go to a previous version and click on this, and you can download it and use the previous library version. Likewise, when you have multiple libraries interconnected to your project, when you maintain your code in different libraries, then you can just get the package from here into your local machine, and you can refer it from your other projects. So this is another cool feature from Azure DevOps. Okay, finally I'll show you what I promised you before, to show the service connections. So inside the settings, you have all these settings to set the permissions or service hooks. You can connect to another service from here, many other ways. And here I'll go to the service connection section. This is where we are going to connect to a third party service. For example, I showed you how to connect to the Azure Resource Manager. So you can connect to another service using a token based authentication, or personal access token, or using the service principal, or maybe a certificate based, or just by the username and password. You can have many ways to connect. So for example, I have Sona Cloud integration using the token base, that is for connecting to this Sona Cloud application. And I have another one, certification base, for connecting the service fabric cluster. So I have a service fabric application, and if we go inside, you can see that this connects through the providing the client certificate and the server certificate. I can show you here. Uh, So you can connect any services from there by many authentication ways. This is just one example of connecting through the certification base. So inside this cluster, I have some security ways to connect to the cluster by providing the cluster certifications on the client certification. So this is what we have passed here, the certifications. Or else you can connect through the service principal. This is the common way that we use for connecting to the Azure resources. So I had my DevOps application. This is the service principal connection that I used to connect to the Azure DevOps resource group. So here I have passed the service principal information, service principal ID, service principal key, and all other information. This comes for connecting to my this application. This one. This is the DevOps connection app that I used to deploy. You saw this under the deployment center. So here inside the IAM section, inside the role management, we have some set of service principles. 3 service principles are there. So this resource group is scoped for my service principle that I am referring. So you can see that now when you are working in Azure DevOps, there will be a DevOps engineers and your team, some of the DevOps engineers will be working on connecting all these service connections and maintaining all these configurations. And other developers also will be working in Azure DevOps by pushing their code and making a pull request and so and so. In that case, you cannot directly give your username and password or any other authentication information that you use for connecting this Azure services or any other third-party services. And it cannot be specific to a specific user subscription. So in that case, it's better to go for having your resource manager. For example, I showed you the IAM connection. So this resource manager is going to have the service principal, and for that particular service principal, you'll be able to connect to whatever the services that is coming inside that resource manager. So likewise, you can have some unique authentication ways here to make it very secure. Instead of providing your username or password or other your subscription information open. And here you can create a new service from here. Let's say you want to connect to Sona Cloud or maybe Nuget or Kubernetes or Jenkins or anything. You can just choose here, and once you select that service, let's say Azure, and then by going to the next option, you can give the subscription information and whatever the authentication process that it gives you. And if you do not see your service here, let's say you want to connect to AWS and it is not here, then you can simply go to the VSTS marketplace and download it. I'll show you how you can do that. Inside the organization level settings, we have an option for extensions. So this is where we get all the extensions from a third-party applications. For example, I have the Sona Cloud integration, and we have the Azure Dev Test Labs for testing, the writing test cases inside the pipeline to do the Azure Dev Test, likewise load runner and many testings. So you can go to the browse marketplace from here, and in the VSTS marketplace that they have a specific place only for the Azure DevOps. So inside the Azure DevOps tabs, you can search for your service that you want. For example, I need AWS tools to connect to my pipeline to add AWS related tasks to publish to AWS. So you need to have that extension. Once you click on this free, this will automatically start to install and it will be added inside here as another extension. Right after you get this, you just have to go to the project and go to the service connection section and add your particular keys that comes along from the AWS. You may have some excess keys from there and you connect it. Then after you can refer that AWS related services, task and anything anywhere all over the application. So these are the all items that we have here in Azure DevOps. I think I completed all the features and I hope you all understood this. Okay, thank you.
Guys, I think you all understood it and have some knowledge now. Um, so these are the items that I prepared. Most of the services are given in this Azure DevOps. I think most of them are covered. And I took more time than given. So thank you guys. And if you have any questions, you can raise it to me anytime. Oh, I don't think we have time now for questions and answering. Thank you guys for listening.
Yeah. Thank you, Shazna, for conducting this session. Yeah,
Welcome.
guys, thanks for joining.
Okay, nice.